How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Culture Colosseum, and today we're going to give you a very brief history of the Russian Revolution. Before we get into that, be sure to like and subscribe, and be sure to share this video with anyone you think might need to know a little bit more about the Russian Revolution. What's really central to understanding the Russian Revolution is the state that Russia was in prior to the revolution. There had been widespread famine for many years, which was exacerbated by World War I. The government continued to disallow citizens to form aid committees, like a Red Cross of sorts. Eventually, they did give in, which created a weird kind of, it's referred to as a parastatal complex. What's really important is that the people began to become disillusioned with their government. And this was really kind of brought to a head with the military humiliations that the Russian army faced, especially with the Great Retreat of 1915, which really prompted the revolution. But the revolution doesn't really start properly until February of 1917, and it's brought on actually by a protest on International Women's Day. The women of the peasantry would normally wait in bread lines for hours a day, but on this day, they decided to protest. And as time went on, more and more people actually began to go out and join them. Eventually, the military does get involved. They send soldiers in to open fire on innocent civilians. But eventually, actually, the next day, the soldiers who are also members of the peasantry who had been drafted for World War I realized, wait a minute, we have guns. Why not use them? So now you not only have a peasantry that is very angry, they are also armed. And this eventually comes to a head as Tsar Nicholas II abdicates. But what's interesting is he also abdicates for his son because his son is very sickly. He has serious problems. He has hemophilia. He is very unwell. So Nicholas II also decides to abdicate for his son, which leaves a power vacuum. But the government does try to get Nicholas II's brother to take over. He declines because why would you want to be in charge of this nightmare? And really, at this point, the revolution is taken over. This is the beginnings of the provisional government, as well as the creation of the Soviets. Now, what's important about the Soviets is that while the provisional government technically has the power, they answer to the Petrograd Soviet, which is also the St. Petersburg Soviet. It's the same thing. So while the provisional government has power in name, the Petrograd Soviet is really in control. And things are all right for a while until we reach the April crisis, where people really begin to realize how much things are changing, and where the Soviets really start to take their power. This is really the beginning of the dual power system in Soviet Russia, where the Petrograd Soviet and the provisional government kind of have this weird give and take relationship. And this goes on for a while. As time goes on, eventually nothing really changes. The main goals of the provisional government, as well as the Petrograd Soviet, are essentially to get out of World War I. And this actually becomes a problem when the provisional government sends a telegram to the Allied powers saying, hey, don't worry, we're not pulling out of the war, despite the fact that that is very much what the Petrograd Soviet wants them to do. Eventually, the war does end, and we get to the 10th or 11th party congress for the Bolsheviks. And this is really where the Russian Revolution becomes the Bolshevik Revolution. Here, Lenin institutes rules against factionalism within the party. He essentially creates uniformity within the Bolshevik party. And this is really where the party just takes over. Going forward, the Bolsheviks are essentially in complete control. Eventually, there will be more infighting with Trotsky trying to push back against Stalin. Eventually, Stalin will take over and begin his reign of terror, but that's a story for a different day. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and be sure to share it with all your friends. Have a good one.